I want to ask a simple question. Do we own a cuisine? I want you to think about that. Do we own a cuisine? The fact is that none of us asked to be born where we were. We never asked for our skin color. We never asked for our families or our ethnicity. By some cosmic force, you were born right where you are during this period of the entire history of this planet. So do we own a cuisine simply because we were born there? See, I've studied Indian food for the last 10 years. I have spent countless hours taking classes, reading books, learning from some of my gurus, studying Hindi, and really just working hard at this. I've encountered people along this journey that have attacked me for cooking Indian food, and their criticisms are often the exact same time and time again. They say that as a white man who was born in America, I have no right to take an opportunity from a native Indian chef. See, these attacks, I understand that they evoke a super passionate response either way. No matter how much I study, no matter how many Indian teachers praise me, no matter how good my food is, I'm always going to be a white chef who lives in the West. My goal is in no way to take an opportunity from anyone, but it's to really help people understand what I believe is honestly the greatest food on the planet. And understand that this doesn't come from a shallow concept of the food. I have studied so much, but the reality is it's never going to be enough. I'm always going to be the student. The problem with this criticism is, to make it, you are saying that cultures have inherited the exclusive rights to a cuisine based off of where that person lives. I don't think that you can appropriate food. Now, certainly you can disrespect food. You can disrespect cultures and you can disrespect cuisine. But to make the statement that because you were born into a culture, you can only make a profession from that culture because you own it, well, that's just wrong. If that's the case, so much Mexican food and French food would be the most appropriated food in the world. If that's true, and we go off the premise, then you're saying that if you're Indian, you can open an Indian restaurant, but anyone else simply is just appropriating the food. Therefore, I am French, I must only open a French restaurant. There's a huge line between appropriation and appreciation. See, other cuisines don't feel that way about chefs and cooks who promote the cuisine that they're born into, right? French and Italian cuisine is considered at the top of the pantheon in so many ways, along with Japanese cuisine, and yet we don't see pioneers of their cuisine taking issue with other races cooking their cuisine. The interesting point is, why is that? Well, it has a lot to do with history, and the reality is these two cuisines were treated vastly different, and cuisines are often treated vastly different depending on where they're from. Specifically, if we looked at France and India, very two different trajectories based off of those cuisines. One was colonized and found independence after substantial appropriation, and the other helped colonize much of the world. See, most of the time, the criticisms I'm met with, well, they're rooted in a major misconception. And that misconception is about me and their own cuisine. To try to define what Indian food is would fill volumes. Indian food is so diverse between states and it changes so much. To understand a dish, you need to learn the history and you need to understand the culture. And that's something that flat out I wasn't born into and I may never fully understand. Now, I've spent an incredible amount of time researching techniques and history and talking with people who cook these dishes, and the reality is that isn't enough. It'll never be enough for some people who just want to criticize. I've devoted a good part of my life to something that I love, and the reality is it's what I love. I won't apologize for that. I will always use my platform to uplift the people around me, to notice that I do have a privilege, and my privilege is here, being able to speak to you in a place that is safe, in a place that is warm, and some people don't have that privilege. But I will use that privilege always to the betterment of the cuisine, to honoring the history and honoring the people. Listen, I decided to put my life out there. I decided to put my passion out there. That's hard. It's scary. We live in an age where everything that we say and do is recorded. And I chose to make a YouTube platform, and I understand that that'll always open me up to tons and tons of criticism. Thankfully, I'm beyond humbled that most of the criticism I get is very far and few between. But I want to really understand this simple point. Just because we were born in a location does not give us an authoritative view to being the only race or culture that can cook that cuisine. The beauty of food is that we share. The beauty of cuisine is that it is always open to interpretation. If we looked in the subcontinent, we can clearly see that food has been appropriated from other cuisines. If we look in America, it is clearly appropriated from other cuisines. The word appropriation in and of itself is just the wrong word. To me, food needs to be about appreciation. Food needs to be about this atma that I always say, this soul connection. And though I never will be born into that culture, I can certainly help showcase this cuisine to other people. Think of pioneers who weren't born into a cuisine but helped take that cuisine and showcase it to the world. People like Rick Bayless, whose deep, passionate love for Mexican cuisine has transformed the landscape of Mexican cuisine across not only America, but the world. Nobody owns cuisine. America doesn't own any of its cuisine. We're a melting pot. And I understand that deep history and deep wounds have been created by this as well. But nobody owns cuisine. Now, I know some of you watching this may take issue, and I certainly want to have that discussion, and I always welcome that. I'm here to learn as well. But I think if we know one thing about food, is that it transcends race. Food has this unbelievable ability to allow us to communicate with each other without words. In a world that is so divided and so divisive, instead of building bigger walls, why aren't we building bigger counters and bigger tables where we can all sit and break bread? But what do I know? Well, I know that I have a deep responsibility, and that responsibility to me is so much about the people who continue to support this journey that I'm on. I feel the weight of Indra, my mentor. I feel the weight of Kurush, who's somebody who's a guru of mine, and Ragini and Tara, and the people who I love so deeply, who I'm always honored to call friend, to call mentor. I hear their voices every time I release a video, every time I write a menu for Atma, and to be very honest, nobody in the comments can beat me up more than I have beaten myself up. It's easy to cast stones, but a lot of times the boulders that we're all carrying, they're too much for us. So instead of casting stones, instead of throwing out words like appropriation, instead of hurling insults, let's talk. Let's sit at this table together to learn. I am not above reproach, and I think that at this point you guys know that. I wanted to make this video today because this is something that I've dealt with, something I've beaten myself up with, and something I'm very sensitive to. I cannot bear the responsibility for trauma and wounds that people have been inflicted with, but I can certainly be sensitive to them. I deeply, deeply appreciate every single solitary person who watches these, but I also want to use this platform to elevate others. It's why you see me have guests come on these videos all the time, and I will continue to do that. If this is something that you want to do, reach out to me, and I'd love to have you on as a guest for a video as well. At the end of the day, we're just human. We're just trying to share things that are important to us, and in the state of the world, it's easy to search for ways to tear each other down. It's easy to bring each other down through insults, through words, but we're all just trying to get by. We all want the same things: to be loved, to feel love. So thank you. Thank you for choosing kindness. Thank you for being kind. But most of all, let's understand that we don't own cuisine, no matter what we do. But we have a deep responsibility to carry the torch. We have a deep responsibility to showcase the love and the people and the culture and the history, and to be sensitive of all the times that those people have struggled. Most of you have probably forgotten more than I will ever know. But I will always do my best to honor and to keep pushing this cuisine forward. At the end of the day, I've said it a million times, Indian food does not need elevation. It needs representation. It doesn't need representation from another white person. But if we look past skin color and look into the heart of the individual, we start seeing that Indian food isn't about race. It isn't about caste. It isn't about creed. Indian food is about soul. Indian food is about love. I know you know this because this is why you're watching this. Thank you, guys.